Hello and good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Mullner here for MeteoMark's Weather. Great to have you here with me. We are talking about catastrophic Category 4 hurricane that threatens the Lesser Antilles Monday, eventually moving on to the Central Caribbean as it grows in scale, and eventually towards the middle of the week, Jamaica, eventually the Yucatan Peninsula, and could this have its eyes set on the Western Gulf near Texas? And following right on Beryl's heels, this out here is Invest 96L. This could become our next tropical system and potentially a hurricane following a path very similar to Beryl. And unfortunately, here on infrared satellite picture, you can see the eye of the storm literally staring down the southern island chain of the Lesser Antilles. Let's get into it. And as we take a look at infrared satellite photo here, you can see very, very clear, showing up that perfect eye, that central dense overcast, really showing up very nicely here. It's a very symmetrical system. You see those towering cloud tops. Look at that three-dimensional model of this system. It's literally barreling right towards St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, St. Lucia, Barbados area. So please heed the hurricane warnings. So we're going to look at the infrared satellite simulation here. This storm is quite a monster, and it's going to cause tremendous problems. You can see by 2 a.m. on Monday morning, you can see the outer, look at these cloud tops here showing up from Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up to St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada here. This could be a very powerful system, Category 4, winds of 145, gusts up to 175. Look at the structure of this system. Here it is, essentially. Just momentarily, I'm going to show you the pressure and as well as the future radar with this system. Now, as we continue on with our HWRF satellite view, our simulated satellite, you can see it's growing in size. So yes, it may weaken to a Category 3 by this point, but the outer bands are going to be hitting Haiti, Dominican Republic, and here in its crosshairs is Jamaica. Now, let's zoom out, put this in perspective. There's Florida. There's our system there. This has got a very powerful structure to it, very symmetrical. And as we continue to go out here in time, you can see Jamaica. There it is, 8 a.m. on Wednesday. So moving right into the Kingston area, there's Jamaica. So yeah, making landfall right near Kingston and moving right across the island. This would be a devastating hit. Even if it is a strong 2 by this point, it may still be a weak 3. A lower entry, Cayman Islands by July 4th here, and unfortunately we get towards Cancun towards July 5th, and could this put the Western Gulf into play? And before we continue, if you haven't smashed that like button, please consider it. Helps tremendously. Question or comment, I love to read your questions or comments. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. So taking a look at our HWRF model with our future radar, essentially here, this is going to give us a great idea of the track and intensity of the system. And as you can see, as we head through 5 a.m. on Monday morning, here up here to the north, let me just get that off the screen, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadalupe up here, Trinidad, Tobago down here. So this gives you a really good sense. Category 4, 140, 150 mile per hour winds here, 960 some millibars here as this continues, 8 a.m. And look at this. Let's just zoom in right here, just north of Grenada, just south of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines here near Port Elizabeth. So this is what we're looking at, a strengthening hurricane as it moves through. The only saving grace is by 5 p.m. Look where it is. It's really booking it towards the northwest here. By this point, it could be down to a 3, 962 millibars. Still looks like our hurricane model is still wanting to strengthening this. But look at this. The direction is key here, because once again, we have another model going just north of guidance here. This is right in the general direction of Jamaica. This, by the way, is July 3rd at 8 a.m. You can see right here, Kingston, and moving right on shore near Kingston. Let me just back that up just slightly here. So moving right into the island here, right around 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning, the 3rd, and right across into central Jamaica at 2 p.m. and then exiting off the coastline towards the west. So this is kind of a slowing down system as the steering currents become weaker, unfortunately, here into the Western Caribbean. And then the Cayman Islands, your turn may be July 4th at 5 a.m. here. Look at how intense the hurricane model is showing this system. But eventually, yeah, we get in line. I know some of you have said you're going to Cancun soon. Unfortunately, this heads right to this model solution wobbles it just to the north, but this is dangerously close to Cancun on July 5th at 11 a.m. So take that into consideration if you're heading down this direction. And it shows it entering the Gulf right around July 5th at 2 p.m. So if we take a look at our GFS model here, and I'll show you the Euro momentarily, you can see the GFS heading right down the center of guidance here towards just to the north of Grenada and south of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines here. So that heading to the northwest, and then eventually this latest run of the GFS starts to head a little bit farther to the north like the Euro did as well. So it is interesting that most of the models are trending a little further north, and unfortunately this could have implications here for Jamaica come July 3rd, because you can see, look at the intensity forecast here. You can see 140 mile per hour winds back here in the Lesser Antilles, weakening to a 3. 3 is still a very powerful, strong storm, to a 2 near Jamaica. But as I said before, we got to watch this intensity because that means everything as it moves through Jamaica, the 3rd, and then the Cayman Islands on the 4th. This could be moving through as a strong 2, weak 3, and then eventually towards the Yucatan Peninsula as we head towards July 5th. And look what the GFS really starts to do. It just is honing in on South Texas here towards July 7th. This is at 8 p.m. heading up towards Brownsville, Corpus Christi. And look at that surge of tropical moisture well inland here to San Antonio, all the way north to Houston here. Could we be talking about a stalling tropical system, as this is way on the outer periphery of this massive subtropical Bermuda high out here. So steering currents become very weak, unfortunately. And this is where we could end up with a scenario where we get a tremendous amount of rain. Look how it's just stalling here July 9th. It is not moving much at all, just funneling that moisture from the Gulf inland. Now, as we look just on the heels here, being picked up by the GFS is our next system, Invest 96L. It's likely to become our next named storm and potentially hurricane as it moves towards the Lesser Antilles just 2 days after Beryl, July 3rd here at 8 p.m. So unfortunately, it doesn't give you much time to prepare here. The great news is, or at least the saving grace is, it's not going to be a Category 4 hurricane. But here it is moving through the Central Caribbean. Unfortunately, some flooding rains. This is really a much bigger circulation than Beryl was. So heavy rains could get up to Dominican Republic, Haiti here, some life-threatening mudslides. And then heading towards Jamaica, unfortunately, again, just 2 days after Beryl. Literally moving through on the 6th and the 7th here, and then towards the Cayman Islands here, showing strengthening here towards the 8th, and then eventually towards Cancun. Could we have another landfall near Cancun here July 9th? It is quite possible, and this system will continue to emerge eventually into the Gulf of Mexico and could put the Western Gulf into play here. So taking a look at our European model, you can see it's going to be very close to guidance as well. It's going to bring our major catastrophic hurricane right through the southern and central Lesser Antilles, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados here late Monday morning into the afternoon on July 1st. Exiting pretty rapidly, thankfully. It's not going to sit and spin for too long, and growing in size as it heads across the central part of the Caribbean. Now, you can see the European is kind of pushing at this point just to the north of guidance and then kind of gets back on track here. But nevertheless, it is on the northeastern end of the envelope here. So this is by July 3rd at 2 p.m., showing it impinging here on Jamaica. So many of the models now are honing in on a solution to keep, Jamaica in the cone here. And unfortunately, that could become, potential landfall, or at least the eye wall brushing parts of Jamaica. And the Cayman Islands as well as we head through July 4th. The European does start to diverge here towards the end of the forecast period from the hurricane models, GFS kind of taking it up in this range, whereas the European takes it more towards the northern part of Belize into the central part of the Yucatan Peninsula. Crosses right over, re-strengthens into a hurricane, and targets Tampico, Mexico area, but there would be feeder bands all the way northward into parts of South Texas. So that is a solution we need to keep close watch on. As we continue to watch our system behind Beryl, that system is literally going to be 2 days behind just on Beryl's heels here. You can see it here on July 2nd. Unfortunately, it's going to come through the Lesser Antilles again, possibly strengthening to a hurricane. Not as strong, but moving through St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados. Once again, maybe slightly to the north on this track. And then as we head through July 4th into the 5th, you can see it just literally following right behind Beryl here, right towards Jamaica as we head towards July 6th. You can see much of its moisture making an impact here in Jamaica, and then continuing westward to the Cayman Islands on the 7th, and eventually the Yucatan Peninsula following right behind Beryl here. Much of its moisture, though, getting hung up across Central America here, and then eventually possibly another landfall just south or right around where Beryl made landfall. But look at this. Tropical moisture making it all the way into South Texas on this run of the Euro. And behind these two systems, I wanted to show you what's going on here on the European model. Look at these massive tropical waves. One off the Cape Verde Islands here, and then another big one east of the Lesser Antilles. We have one off the southeast coast to the U.S. You can see what's steering all of these tropical systems, this big old area of high pressure. Once our two hurricanes, or this potential second hurricane, makes it into this area, you can see steering currents become weaker as the high pressure is much further here to the northeast. But let's just continue to go out here in time. You can see where these tropical systems, tropical waves moving through the Lesser Antilles, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico by July 9th. And then look at this. We got a big tropical wave sitting just southeast off the U.S. coast. And let's leave you with this one here on the Euro. Two major tropical waves out here in the intertropical convergence zone. So as we take a look at our GFS model here first, this is thanks to Tropical Tidbits, the mid-layer and upper layer dry air. You can see all this dust. It's actually getting entrained into the Central Caribbean here to a limited extent. You can see Invest 94L over here. There's Beryl, and there's Invest 96L behind it here. As we go out here in time, you can see both systems, this system right on its heels. It is going to be contending with some dry air from the dust out ahead of it, so that's what's going to be causing some problems. And then as we continue to head westward here towards July 4th, there it is, bringing it on the other side of Jamaica. You know, very limited dry air at this point. So the second system looks like it's following right on the heels towards Jamaica as well. We don't get the major dry air from the dust until we get behind our next tropical system here, what would become of 96L. And then look at the GFS continuing to bring the system up towards South Texas. So that's a prospect we're going to have to keep an eye on here. The next tropical system, whatever happens to 96L here, our next tropical system heads into the Eastern Gulf and the Central Gulf. So we're going to be watching this a long time through July 10th into July 11th. And it looks like it might be heading in the direction of eastern Mexico or even Texas. And as we look at our European model here, as we continue to go out here in time, you can see Beryl essentially barreling towards the Lesser Antilles here. Invest 96L behind it here. And as we go out here in time, you can see Beryl making very close here to Jamaica as we head through July 3rd into July 4th. Our next tropical system coming through the Lesser Antilles here. And as we stop right about here, you can see our systems. This is what we're looking at as we head through July 4th. And picking up here, you can see the European model continuing to show a little bit of a southward bias here towards the Yucatan, our next system behind it towards Jamaica, and then, of course, landfall here in eastern Mexico. So we'll have to continue to watch it here. See if the European comes a little bit farther to the north here. But one thing to note on the European model, look at the massive Saharan dust. That's not going to stop our tropical waves, though, from occurring. They're going to continue to roll off the African coastline here. And as always, thanks to Tropical Tidbits for this analysis of our sea surface temperature anomalies. Look at this right where Beryl's at. This is where the sea surface temperatures are at their greatest. We're looking at anywhere from about 2 to as much as 3, 4, some areas close to 5 degrees Celsius above your average here. This out here is Saharan dust doing its work out by the Cape Verde Islands. But look at even the Gulf and off the East Coast is warming up, even off the coast of South America here up by the MDR. As we take a look at rainfall amounts here across the Caribbean. So this is with the European model showing that further south jaunt as opposed to the GFS. You can see right where Beryl basically moves, that's where we're going to see anywhere from 125 to 225 millimeters of rainfall. That could clip places like Jamaica, the Yucatan, parts of Belize, and eastern Mexico, maybe even as far north as Texas here. So we should see that rainfall amounts of 4.5 to as much as 12 inches in some places. So as we get into the Eastern Caribbean here, you can see the path of Beryl here on the European model. Behind it, potential for maybe Chris or whatever the next storm is beyond that. We'll have to see here. We're going to be looking at a surge of tropical moisture. Obviously, where Beryl makes landfall and moves through, that's upwards of 150, 200 millimeters. You're getting up into that 6, 7, 8, 10, 12-inch range here. Even further to the north, where our next tropical system moves, that'll be anywhere from 90 to as much as 150 millimeters, getting on the order of 3.5 to as much as 7 inches of rain. So if we look at our HWRF radar through the rest of what's left of your weekend, you can see where the storms are. Thankfully, they're pushing out of the northeast, but they're still hung up in the mid-Atlantic by 10 p.m. here. And this is going to continue off the coast overnight. You can see the Outer Banks of North Carolina getting hit through 9 a.m. Our next storm, there it is into the Central Plains, and we're dealing with some showers and thunderstorms, some gully washers here across much of the Bahamas. So the tropical moisture just hung out, especially on the tail end of this front. It will be the tail end of this front on Monday afternoon where we get some of these big thunderstorms pushing up, bubbling up here into the southeast. It'll help cool things off, but we're dealing with that severe weather out here into the northern plains, the Central Plains. High pressure building into the northeast, just in time for Monday to go back to work. And look at this. We're going to be dealing with showers and thunderstorms across the southeast, and this severe weather outbreak continuing July 2nd here at 8 a.m. And watch out as we continue throughout the week. We might have some of these mesoscale convective complexes head your way later on Wednesday into Thursday. So the European model here, our synoptic weather, picking up right where our HRRR model left off. High pressure, there we go. Let's make sure our timeline is okay there. High pressure building into the northeast, the Great Lakes. Showers and thunderstorms continuing into your Tuesday here. Strong thunderstorms up here across the Midwest, but watch this as we progress towards Independence Day here. Here's July 3rd. That high pressure retreating off the northeast coast. You can still see lots of showers and thunderstorms here along the Gulf Coast. I'm sure you're welcoming that with the heat. But watch out. Some of these storms on Wednesday evening could be pretty strong here across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley. And then eventually making it into the northeast. This is by 5 a.m. on 4th of July. So there it is, pushing southward. It might be enough to push enough of this moisture out to save your 4th of July fireworks display in the evening. Southern Pennsylvania doesn't look so good into the Ohio Valley, though. Look at that. Mesoscale convective complexes moving out of the area by Friday morning, and look at that. We're affecting lots of shower and thunderstorm action up into northern New York and New England here into southeast Canada. And look at here across the southeast. We're socked in with plenty of tropical moisture. Severe weather outbreak here as we continue into the weekend through July 7th. And as we go out here in time, you can see what's going to be happening here. Plenty of tropical moisture continues to funnel up through all the way northward into the Appalachians, and severe weather outbreaks across the Midwest continue. So if we look at precipitation amounts here on our European model, you can see the East Coast getting drenched here with some rain the early part of the week here, and then the Midwest, and that is where we're going to see, the lion's share of the rain with all of that severe weather coming together here across the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast as well. So here across the Midwest, we could see 4 to as much as 6 inches. Many areas 2 to 3 inches as well. And here into the mid-Atlantic, down and through Florida as well, 2 to 3.5 inches. But I want to draw your attention, European model going further south with Beryl, but still South Texas here getting clipped with 2 inches or less. I still think that could be a little bit farther to the north. So as we take a look at the GFS here for rainfall totals, you can get an idea of what's going to be happening with this system. There it is, the last couple frames showing up, bringing Beryl north towards the western Gulf of Mexico, towards South Texas, towards July 7th and the 8th. You can see upper Midwest here is where we're going to see the lion's share of the rain, and the East Coast with that tropical moisture and some of those frontal boundaries stalling. And as we continue into Canada here, let's take a look at your forecast. High pressure building across the southeastern provinces just in time for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We have a big storm ejecting from Manitoba region. That is going to bring some showers and thunderstorms. I think some of these could be strong across eastern Ontario as we head into Wednesday here. Now watch this. This storm heads up through Hudson Bay, and it's going to strengthen as it does. Now, it's going to bring a sharp cold front through this area, and we could see some stronger thunderstorms across Quebec province here, moving to the east pretty quickly here with some residual showers and clouds behind it for July 4th. And then we got another system that kind of pivots towards the southeast here as it's blocked by a nice area of high pressure across much of Canada. But at this point, the only areas of showers are around the edges here, especially up in the Canadian Maritimes where we'll be seeing some of that weather. But look at this, as we head through the 6th, yeah, things start to get active again. A big storm here across Quebec, bringing showers and some stronger thunderstorms. Another area out here in the Central Plains could be bringing some stronger thunderstorms to Manitoba here. So please heed those warnings and watches. And as we continue to go out through the 7th into the 8th, a big storm develops here across Manitoba and western part of Ontario, dragging a massive cold front and some severe weather eastward across Ontario and eventually Quebec province. And then we have a stronger storm for July 10th ejecting into eastern Ontario, so watch out. This could really play into some severe weather across the southern Ontario and Quebec areas come the 11th. So for our Canadian rainfall totals here, you can see through central parts here through Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the western parts of Ontario, we could see that severe weather, rainfall amounts of 50 to 100 millimeters, getting upwards of 2.5 to 4 inches. But as we continue through time here, we're going to moisten things up here across parts of southern Ontario, Quebec, anywhere from 40 to as much as 70 millimeters, getting in on the order of about, the 1.5 to 3 inches. All right, so heading out to the Western Pacific, do I have anything to talk about here? There is absolutely nothing other than the monsoon season that's continuing across Southeast Asia from Vietnam, the whole Eastern Asian continent here up to Japan. And then look at this. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, it kind of looks active, but none of these actually develop into much of anything. Let's just zoom out here a little bit. We'll cruise through the first week into the second week here. Here up here in Japan and South Korea, we have those big monsoon-type synoptic systems, and none of those are developing. And look at this. As we head through about the 10th, we might have to look beyond this because we actually have some areas of low pressure developing tropical waves out here. And as we head into the Eastern Pacific, we might have a spin-up actually on our hands here come the 3rd, the 4th, into the 5th. But you know what? It doesn't look like it's really going to amount to anything. I got plenty more weather for you in just a moment, but take a look at my affiliate. Do you want some awesome maps? Check this out.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
So temperatures here for this week, the heat's going to be building across the southern plains, but look at these 70s all the way down to Kentucky and the Appalachians here, all across the upper Midwest, Ohio Valley into the Northeast. A breath of fresh air into your Tuesday. Look at this, though. Triple-digit heat building northeastward here. You can already see we're back into the 80s here across the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. Texas just continuing to bake. Look at this. By Wednesday, the day before 4th of July, Independence Day, we're on the 90s here. 93 in Pittsburgh. Yeah, we're 90 all the way up to Rochester here. Into Thursday, 4th of July, Independence Day. Look at this, 80s in the Northeast. But look at these upper 90s here across the Carolinas into Virginia, Maryland. It is hot. And look at this, Friday, We continue to surge cooler air across the upper Midwest, temperate air here into the 80s, and look at all across the Gulf Coast and Texas, upper 90s to near 100 degrees. Extended outlook from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton's upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Monday is going to be a breath of fresh air behind that cold front, windy, 73 degrees, pretty much very low humidity. Tuesday, Wednesday, we have a warming trend near 90 Wednesday and into Independence Day, 4th of July. We have a chance at afternoon showers and thunderstorms in the 4th into Friday as well, so watch out. Some of those storms may be strong. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.